Picture this for a second. Imagine having the opportunity to buy Google, Facebook, and YouTube before they became the absolute behemoths of the industry they are today. Now imagine saying no every single time. It sounds completely insane, right? But as we're going to see in today's explainer, this isn't some crazy hypothetical. This is exactly what happened.
What if you just walked away? Well, for Yahoo, doing exactly that led to one of the most mind-blowing corporate faceplants we've ever seen. Back in the day, Yahoo was undeniably one of the most powerful companies on the entire internet. They were the undisputed king of the web. And today, people barely even talk about them. So how on earth did a company with absolute dominance over the World Wide Web manage to lose everything?
Well, we're going to unpack all of that today. Quick thing before we jump in. If you love these deep dive business stories and analyzing history's biggest missteps, make sure to hit subscribe to Explained Empire. It's the absolute best way to support the show. All right, let's get into it. Chapter 1. The King of the Web. To really grasp the sheer magnitude of Yahoo's fall, we gotta rewind to a time when Yahoo wasn't just a website. For millions of people, it literally was the internet. So starting back at its founding in 1994, Yahoo shot up incredibly fast as this super organized early web directory. You have to remember, the internet back then was pure, unadulterated chaos. You couldn't just easily search for things yet. You actually needed a map. And Yahoo categorized the web. It was a brilliant service, and it made them global superstars almost overnight. By the time the dot-com boom peaked, Yahoo's success was just off the charts. They were the undisputed front page of the digital world. But you know, when you're sitting at the absolute top of the mountain, the only place left to look is down. Chapter 2. The Google Blunder. $1 million. Just let that sink in for a second. Back in 1998, right during Yahoo's era of total dominance, two young guys named Larry Page and Sergey Brin showed up with this brand new search engine algorithm, and they were willing to sell the whole thing to Yahoo for just a cool $1 million. That startup, as you've probably guessed, was Google. And Yahoo? They passed. It's widely considered one of the most catastrophic fumbles in business history. So why on earth did they say no? Well, it wasn't just a squabble over money. It was a massive clash of philosophies. See, Yahoo's whole playbook was built on the portal model. Their entire business relied on trapping you on their site for as long as humanly possible, just to show you flashy display ads. Google, on the other hand, was offering pure search innovation. Their entire mission was to get you off their website and exactly where you wanted to go in milliseconds. Yahoo's leadership just couldn't wrap their heads around a tool designed to send users away. They completely missed where the web was heading. Now, missing out on Google would haunt any company forever. But lightning was about to strike twice. Actually, scratch that. It struck 3 times. Chapter 3. Missing Facebook and YouTube. Fast forward a few years to 2006. A young Mark Zuckerberg is building this rocket ship of a social network called Facebook. And honestly, Yahoo actually saw the potential this time. They hammered out a deal to buy Facebook for roughly $1 billion. It was a done deal. But then, in a just devastating move, Yahoo's stock takes a tiny dip, and their leadership decides to play hardball, squeezing the price down to $850 million at the 11th hour. Zuckerberg was so frustrated by the petty lowballing that he just walked away from the table. Yahoo literally had Facebook in their hands and blew it over pennies on the dollar. So after dropping the ball with Google and totally botching the Facebook deal, you'd think Yahoo would be hyper-vigilant about the next big cultural shift, right? I mean, how do you manage to also miss the video revolution? Yep, they passed on YouTube too. Video sharing was so obviously becoming the next massive frontier of the internet, but Yahoo dragged their feet again. They seriously thought they could just build their own video player and win. Spoiler alert, they couldn't. Letting YouTube slip away was the final nail in the coffin of this devastating trio of blunders. They essentially let the search revolution, the social media revolution, and the video revolution all slip right through their fingers. You know, a company doesn't just accidentally stumble into this many historic screw-ups. Let's dig into the root causes in Chapter 4, Failures in Leadership. This wasn't bad luck, guys. This was incredibly bad management. First off, they had a profound lack of clear vision. Yahoo couldn't figure out if they were a tech company or a media company, so they kind of just half committed to both. Second, they completely misunderstood those massive tech shifts we talked about. Third was a bureaucratic quicksand. While startups were out there moving fast and breaking things, Yahoo was bogged down in endless corporate meetings. And finally, they had a revolving door of CEOs. I'm talking half a dozen leaders in just a few years. Try building a consistent long-term strategy with that kind of chaos. It's virtually impossible. To survive in tech, you have to be agile. You literally have to be willing to cannibalize your own products to make room for the future. Look at Apple letting the iPhone kill the iPod. But Yahoo, they were drunk on corporate hubris. They stubbornly clung to that 90s portal playbook that made them rich in the first place. They fell in love with their past, and it permanently blinded them to the future. And the consequence of refusing to adapt? Well, it's always exactly the same. Chapter 5, The Trillion-Dollar Fall. The absolute most brutal irony of this whole shebang? Being eaten alive by the very guys you ignored. Remember that search engine Yahoo refused to buy for $1 million? Google didn't just succeed. They grew into Yahoo's absolute fiercest competitor, swallowing their market share whole. The very company they brushed off ended up being the bulldozer that crushed their core business. The sheer financial devastation we're looking at here is staggering. Back in the dot-com glory days, Yahoo peaked at a mind-boggling valuation of over $100 billion. But after years of bleeding top talent, losing ground, and just completely forgetting how to innovate, their core internet business was finally pawned off to Verizon for roughly $4.8 billion, just a tiny fraction of what they used to be worth. After that sale went through, the story of Yahoo as this independent web-ruling pioneer was officially over. The scraps were absorbed, things got reorganized, and the brand basically became a legacy name instead of an industry leader. The company that literally organized the early internet couldn't even figure out how to organize its own future. This has to be one of the most powerful lessons in business history about adapting to change and the absolute devastating cost of hesitation. The tech world doesn't forgive, and it definitely doesn't wait. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to wrap up this explainer today. Look at the landscape right now. Which of our current, seemingly untouchable tech giants is completely ignoring the next big shift? Who's sitting in a boardroom right now making the exact same mistake? Think about that for a second. Thanks so much for hanging out and learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.